close to me. Every step. One less step is one less step to be in your presence. Close. Where I wanna be. Tonight. I'm tired. Destiny. Every step. One step in your presence. In your presence. And close. That's it. Just to be close. Just to be close. Close. In your presence. Destiny. Every step. One less step on me to be in your presence. Close to me. Step. It's just one less to be in your presence. Close. One mistake, one mistake in your presence. To be in your presence. Oh. To be in your presence. Close to me. Somebody just love upon him this. You truly want to be. Every step we take in worship, praise, thanksgiving, one less step to be hid. Father, we all upon you. He said, if we draw nigh, we'll draw nigh. Father, with all our efforts, with all our might, one step at a time, God, to be closer to you. Pray this morning. One your presence. Closer to you. Closer, I pray. Help me draw closer to your will. Today, what others may say, I want to get closer to you. Let's reach out to him this morning, Billy God. Closer. 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 what more they say. Lord, I just want to be close to you. One more time, closer to you. Closer to you, Lord. Closer, I pray. I just want to go closer. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Lord, I just want to get closer to you. To get closer to you. I want to get closer to you. Every day, Lord God, oh, praise. Kindness, the care we express, effort we being obedient, love, our baby. Oh God, that but all you require of us, that we draw nigh. You promise you will draw. Let's give him worship in the center. This praise. The big are drawn to. Spirit of a life. Thanks for worship.
servants are on master reveal that they need God and doctrine. They that have been rather institute of the truth. It is while some rich all things they do ready to they hold their own house. Stretch your hands to him. Glorify him. He's worthy of all praise. We cannot praise him enough. No, we don't have enough praises in us. Praise him. We get tired. Get the vibes. Go at it. Go at it. There are times when you feel like you want. Go at it. Done. Done. Just for a while. For verse 6. Take the name of Jesus. Child of oh, joy and oh, 400.
In the name of Jesus, God of sorrow and of woe, it will joy and comfort give you. Take it
Then wherever you go, precious name.
Oh,
Oh,
how sweet,
hope
hope
of
of
earth
earth
and
and
joy.
joy, ever precious name. Oh, how sweet, hope of earth and joy of heaven.
Take the name of ever
Take the name of Jesus
as a shield from every snare.
and a shield from everything.
Temptation thrown you gather.
If temptation how you get
Holy name.
freedom,
Holy
holy
name.
name in prayer, precious name. Oh, how hope of earth and joy, precious name. Oh, how sweet, hope of earth and joy. Oh, the
Precious. How it thrills our soul.
red with our souls in joy.
And His loving name.
And His loving arms receive.
And His songs are tongues and joy.
And His
Songs are tongues and joy. Precious name. Oh, how sweet. Hope of earth and joy of heaven. Precious name. Oh, how sweet.
hope of earth and joy. And the name of Jesus Christ.
Falling prostrate at His
Falling prostrate at His feet.
King of Kings in heaven is from Him.
King of kings in
When our journey is complete,
our journey is complete. Precious sweet. Oh, my
Peace and joy of heaven. Take the name of Jesus ever.
name of Jesus. I shield from every snare.
Temptation from just breathe that holy name. Precious name. Oh, how sweet.
Oh,
Earth and joy.
precious name. Oh, how sweet. Oh, my
Joy of heaven. At
the name of
Jesus' born.
all in
Prostrate at his feet.
King of kings
In
in never
every
be
crown. Oh, is complete. Precious name. Oh, how sweet.
Oh, perfect.
Joy.
Just name. Oh, how sweet. Oh, perfect.
Joy. Precious name. Precious name.
Oh, how sweet. Oh, perfect.
Joy. Precious name.
Oh, how sweet. Oh, perfect.
Joy. Praise. Keep quiet here. Let's just bow our heads. For glory. Take us of grace. Glory.
God, we are not God that light in our life. And we come to our hearts, God, open before you, Lord, to just for all, God, that is due unto you today. We will hold nothing, but we will praise you, God, from the very depth of our heart. Praise you, God, from that your name will be exalted in this sanctuary. That God, you will be exalted among the that you will be exalted in the earth. Pray, Spirit, God, that you will fall afresh for one of us. Touch us, mighty God, from the very top of our heads to the soul. I pray, God, that you will cleanse us from every sin and every unrighteousness. Purify and purge every heart this morning. Know the situation that faces every person this morning, God. So I pray, God, that you will administer every need. Oh, strengthen those who need it. Oh God, I pray, God, that you will help those who are in need of help this morning. Lift every burden, God, as we cast all our cares at your feet. Because your word declared that we should cast all our care upon you, because you care for us. And thank you, God, that you are God who are ever present and ever faithful and ever true. Promise that you will never leave us nor forsake us, but you will be with us, God, to the very end of the age. So we stand in that assurance this morning that you are with us, mighty God. Whatever the challenges that is surround us, we thank you, God, that they are outside of us and not within us, God. Because when you are in the vessel, then we can smile of every storm. Help us to stand resolute for you, God. Darts, mighty God, are aiming at us, but we clothe ourselves fully in the armor of you, Lord. And the helmet of salvation this morning, that you will guard our minds, that our mind will be focused on you as we come into your house, that our minds will be stayed upon you, Lord. We put on the breastplate of righteousness. Oh God, we take up the shield of faith. Oh God, in our feet, God, with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Oh God, we have on the belt of truth this morning, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of the living God. Oh God, we stand resolute in you this morning. Take full control, mighty God, of this service. The one who stands to officiate, God, I pray, God, that you will clothe her in your salvation. Press her up, God, in your righteousness. That whatever she does this morning, it will be to the honor and the glory of your name. Fall afresh upon us even now, God. Walk up and down in this sanctuary, Holy Ghost. Oh God, go through every bench and every chairs this morning. Oh God, from the pulpit to the pew. Oh God, we give you, God, oh God, for permission, God, to go forward, oh God. Help us, Lord God, that we will not stand upon our own blessings. But Lord, I pray, God, that you will walk among us, God. As you walk among the candlesticks this morning, God, I pray, Spirit of the living God, that you will walk among each and every one of us. Oh God, as we stand to give you glory, because you are worthy of all the praise. Hallelujah. You're worthy of all the glory. Oh God, you're worthy of all the honor, Lord. So we bow our hearts to you this morning in respect to you, God, and in respect to your sanctuary, in respect to the very word, God, that will come this morning. Let it come directly from your throne room, Lord God. Let self be slain. Let self be crucified. Oh God, I pray, God, self will decrease and you will increase. God, everything that is not of you, Lord, oh God, we ask you to remove it this morning. Flip the script, mighty God, if it's not what you want, and you have your way in the midst of us this morning. Father, I pray, God, that you will set up your angels running about us. Give your angels charge over us this morning. Set up sentries at the door, mighty God. Let no unwanted spirit enter into the sanctuary, but let only the true Spirit of God reign and reside in this holy tabernacle. Oh God, we just bless your holy name. Every person here this morning, guard the hearts and the minds, mighty God, and help us, God, to serve with all diligence in spirit and in truth. Just bless you for what you have already done, what you are doing, what you are going to do. In Jesus' name I pray.
Praise.
Every praise, every word of worship, every prayer is to our God. Every prayer to our God. Every word of worship, one of all. Every prayer.
Let us stand.
Every praise is to our God.
Come, give him praise.
Sing hallelujah to our God.
Glory, hallelujah.
Is to
worship in one accord. Every praise, every praise to our God. Sing hallelujah to our God. Glory, hallelujah to our God. Every praise is to our God. God, every praise, every word of worship, one accord. Every praise, every praise to our God.
Sing it.
Praise God. Every praise is to our God. Some people not giving God every praise. Just amuse. Some people. Praise is to our God. Praise is to our God. Praise God. You may be seated a little. They are humans, but some say they're here. And take great pleasure and welcome. In the name of Jesus. I'm grateful to know that God is our God. And we have allowed Him. I welcome you in the house of the Lord. And those that are watching us, at media houses, or platform, welcome you. Pray that as you worship with us, share with us, your lives also. God is for. God bless all of you. I notice of are visiting with us. Can I standing up? Please. Well, we are glad that you are here. God, give him rightful. Well, at this time, we'll be in forward to worship the Lord. Our tithes and offering. And
Praise Him in the
Praise
praise Him. Praise Him when the sun oh, praise Him in the morning. Praise Him in oh, praise Him. Praise Him when the sun goes down. Why won't you praise? Let us praise Him. Praise Him in the morning. Praise Him in oh, praise Him. Praise Him. Praise Him when the praise Him, praise Him in the morning, praise Him in the noontime, praise Him, praise Him, praise Him when the sun, praise Him when the sun goes down, praise Him when the sun.
It's a Christian belief. Yeah.
hold out. Help me to hold out. Until my chance comes.
May not be easy. He never said I was. When it gets hard and I cannot find my way, he told me to put my trust in him. Oh,
Help me to hold out. Help me to hold out. Help me to hold out. Until my chance comes.
I'll wait, may not be easy. He never said I would be. When it gets dark and I cannot find my way, he told me to put my trust in him. That's why I'm asking you, new love.
Help me to hold out.
Your love.
Help me to hold out. Help me to hold out. Until my change comes.
Please help me.
Help me to hold out.
See your heart be love.
Help me to hold out.
Hold down.
Help me to hold out. Until my change comes. Lord, help me to hold out. 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 Hold out. Lord, help me to 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 hold out. My change come. Lord, help me to hold out. 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 Till my change come. Until my change come. Until my Lord, Fill my prayer.
Praise God.
Come on, people of God, praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
Worship the Lord.
Praise
Bless
God.
the name of Jesus. Our Father, thank you for this day of. We thank you for this privilege, God, that we are here once again gathered in your presence to hear the mind of you. I pray, God, as He go to break your word unto us. I pray, God, that you will breathe over that word. And as He speak, God, you will give him clarity. I pray that you open up his mind and his heart and his spirit, God, to hear. That whatever, God, you wanted him to speak this morning, he will speak, thus saith the Lord. I pray, God, that the word will go forth with power and with clarity. I pray, God, that as we seated in the presence of you to hear the mind of you, I pray, God, that you will help us to open our ears and pay keenly attention, oh God, to what you have to us, what you want us to hear. Father God, we come against every spirit of loneliness, every spirit of tiredness, every distracting spirit, every wandering spirit. Oh God, I come against the spirit in the name of Jesus. Father God, we realize, oh God, when the spoken word is spoken, God, the enemy come with all kind of things to distract your people. I pray, God, that feet will be stabilized in Zion in the name of Jesus, and we bind every opposing spirit that will come to oppose the word of you in the name of Jesus. And I pray, God, that the word will minister to our heart, the word will minister to our needs, the word will minister to our spirit. In the name of Jesus, I pray, God, that deliverance will come forth through your word. I pray it will be a no word for this time and this season. That as someone says, oh God, come in the presence of you, saying, Lord, I want to hear a word for you, from you, a word for this situation, a word, oh God, to make a decision. I pray, God, that your speaker, oh God, to your host, to your people this morning, in the name of Jesus. So, mighty God, I pray you strengthen your servant even now, in the name of Jesus. Breathe through him afresh. Let a fresh anointing flow from heaven, oh God, down upon your servant, in the name of Jesus. I pray, God, against every spirit, oh God, that will intervene in this present, in the name of Jesus. Whatever assignment that Satan come with today, with his agent, oh God, to stop the word, to block the word, to oppose the word, we take authority in the realm of the spirit, and we abort every assignment of the enemy, and we say, God, let the word go forth now in power, with authority and clarity, in the name of Jesus. And let the church say amen. Come on, people of God, say amen.
Amen.
Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus.
My head, everlasting portion, more than friend or life to me. All alone, life's pilgrim's journey, Savior, let me walk with. Let's do the chorus. Close to thee, close to thee, close to thee, close to thee, all along life's pilgrim journey, Savior, let me walk with thee, close to thee, close to thee, close to thee, close to thee, all along life's pilgrim journey, Savior, let me walk with thee. All along life's pilgrim journey, Savior, let me walk with thee. Can we give him worship in the sanctuary this morning? Oh, Father, we bless you. We magnify you this morning. Not for ease or worldly, not for fame or life should be. Gladly, Lord, will we toil and suffer. Your holy let. Close to thee, close to thee, close to thee, close to thee, all along, life's pilgrim journey, Savior, let me walk with. Those that are seated, can I just invite us to stand as we engage God in worship? Close to thee, close to thee, close to thee, close to thee, all along life's pilgrim journey, Savior, let me walk with thee. Is there someone today that desires to walk with God? There's somebody who is feeling lonely on their journey this morning and needs God's company. All along life's pilgrim journey, Savior, let me walk seated if you may. May this be the prayer of our God will walk with us step of the way. It's not in man to know the way. That is why Jesus abundantly declared that He is the way, the truth, and the life. None can come to the Father but through Him. Whether we believe it or not, we need Jesus on our journey. All alone, life's pilgrim journey, Savior, let me walk with. There is a ministry in that. Would some of us remember that as individuals, we are not permanent fixtures in this life. We are pilgrims, Word of God likens us, and strangers, sojourners. We are merely passing through. There's a work that we must do while we sojourn. Let us not become too comfortable. Let us not be weary in well doing. Word of God says, for we reap if we. I want to greet each and one of us present here today. Give acknowledgement. Voice up. Voice up. Cross. Evangelist. Gopal. Greetings in the name of greetings also. Nugent, the Nugent family. Let's put our hands together for them. Let us continue to pray their strength, Lord order. Richards will not be journeying alone. Grandson. Where is he? Him around there. They will not be journeying alone, but also want to welcome back to the house the Maisie Small. We weren't expecting you back so quickly, but it's good to see you. Good to have you. Joy to have you. Welcome back to our campus, Camp 2025. When we were asked the names for the two groups, somebody jokingly said All Star for one of the groups, and we jokingly said Celebrity. And the camp officially worked with. So for camp this year, we have All Star and the Celebrity. After all, as said and done in terms of All Star came out and want to congratulate them Was a beautiful time in the hills of St. Mary. I met when food was great and the word of God and camaraderie, fellowship. All in all, God was with us. We are grateful. Back house. We are trusting God that those who were home, that you also wonderful present. This morning, hope to, for a brief moment, exhort us from the book of James, chapter 4, and verse 8. James 4, 8. Let me know. Let us read together. Draw nigh to God. He will cleanse your hands and purify your heart. Double word of the Lord. Okay? Now, for a brief moment, let us see if we can focus our attention on this one verse of Scripture. This particular passage or verse of Scripture focuses on the theme of drawing near to God, cleansing our hands and purifying our hearts. What are we invited to do? Draw near to God, cleanse our hands, and purify our hearts. Can we say that one more time? Draw near to God, cleanse our hands, and purify our hearts. Amen. Beloved, our text before us today comes as a very powerful yet challenging letter in the New Testament, the book of James. James, the brother of the Lord, wasn't mincing words when he wrote to the people who were struggling with internal conflicts and worldly desires and a lack of spiritual discipline. James's letter serves for us as a mirror. And today, as we look into this mirror often will show us ourselves. It will give us a true and accurate reflection of ourselves and our struggles and our pride and our anger, with the temptation to live for ourselves instead of living for God. So as we look at this particular passage of Scripture today, it will serve us as a mirror. And all of us know what a mirror is, right? Come on, Jamaican, we call it glass. Looking glass. It serves for us today as a mirror. And what happens, or what is the purpose of a mirror? It is to show us an accurate reflection of ourselves. We have some mirror that it is specially equipped with some kind of a magnifying feature that when you look in it, it makes you look bigger than you are. For those of us who drive, some of us, our rear view mirror sometimes have some little writing on it. You want to have it, Sister Anne? Because a number of the European men into have that, where it will say to you that the objects in your mirror, they are closer than they actually. So sometimes there are mirrors that can cause us to look a little different from what we actually are in person. But when we talk today about the mirror of the word is one that is going to give us an accurate reflection of who we are as individuals. So at no time will Pastor Poise go before the mirror to see a reflection of herself and see Celine or see her husband, except if he's standing behind her or beside her. But if you look in a mirror and you see something other than who you are, it means that that mirror is not accurate, it's not telling the truth. The mirror of the world before us today will cause us to see an accurate reflection of ourselves. It will cause us to see our struggles and our pride and our angers and all of the things that some of us are not necessarily proud of. You know, some of us, when we stand before the mirror, not all of us are really satisfied with what we see. Some of us, we look in the mirror and when we see the nose, we say, yeah, the nose too flat or too broad. Some of us, we don't like our mouth. We don't like our ears, maybe too small, maybe cock off. Some of us don't like our teeth. We don't like our hair. There are so many things that one can see in the mirror that sometimes we are not pleased with. And sometimes it is interesting that I observe persons sometimes taking photographs and then we say, wait. I try to get the good side. Because there are those of us, for one reason or the other, when they take picture from a certain angle, it shows in a way that you feel good with yourself, like I said. Good. But if you take it from the next side and they show the flower in a real one. There's something about the word of God. It doesn't matter how you come before it. It is going to show you an accurate reflection of who you are. So you can't come before the word expecting to see what you desire to see. What somebody else wants you to be. What you are going to see is an accurate reflection of yourself. What you see is what you get. It's not like one of those magic mirrors that they can go before and chat some gibberish and it lies to you. When you go before the mirror, what you see is what you get. And the ugly witch, the mirror, and says she's the finest of them. In the middle of this letter, we find verse 8, this verse, that serves both as a command and as a promise. A verse that tells us what to do, what to expect, when to do it. It's a verse that comes to the very heart of what it means to have a relationship with God. So it's not a word that is going to bring things up. I know some of us, we want the truth, but we want it in a delicate way. And for those of us who are married, we sometimes experience, especially wives, who will say, honey, how do I look? There is a certain expectation
that they have. Some persons in truth and in fact, they have some insecurities and they just want you to confirm whether or not you see it. And if you say, say, oh, this so and so and so, it creates a problem. But then you ask. So if you ask, what do you expect? No matter how of us expect honesty, and even if you expect the honesty, some of us expect you to put it delicately. And you know, there's something that I don't buy into. Sometimes you see couples that have been married for years, and the person asks them the question, what is the secret to your marriage or the success of your marriage? And the husband will say, just do whatever she says. Or she's always right. I don't know where we get the nonsense because there are those of us who are so superficial that we always want to think that we are always right. And if things are not done our way, then it's problem in the household. That is not so when you come before the word of God. Whoever you are, whatever state you are in, that's exactly what the mirror is going to reflect. And that is one of the reasons why most of us, we stay away. We shy away from the word of God because the word of God is direct, it is straightforward, it is blunt. It's not going to go on any corner. It is going to tell you squarely to your face exactly who you are. And so James in his writing did not fall short of ensuring that the word of God was very pointed, it was very accurate, that whoever we are, when we mirror ourselves against the word, it is going to tell us exactly who we are, where we are, and what we need to do in order that we might engender an healthy relationship with God. So, I mentioned that this word cuts very deep. In other words, to connect with God, it says that we must draw near to Him, and He will draw near to us. Cleanse your heart, you sinners, and purify your heart, you double-minded. This morning I want us to collectively scrutinize this verse in 3 parts. The first part, we're going to be looking at the invitation. The invitation says, draw near to God, and He will draw near to you. Secondly, we want to look at the action aspect. Cleanse your hands, you sinners. And thirdly, we want to look at the transformation aspect, which is purify your hearts, you double-minded. Draw near to God, and He will draw near to you. That's a very straightforward command and promise. If you do this, this is what is going to happen. There is no two-way about it. Pastor, if you show water and what is expected, never get wet. There is no magic way about drawing close to God, coming into a personal relationship with God. We must obey this invitation, this command, that if we are going to be in a relationship with God, while God will always extend Himself to us, we must first give heed to that invitation. We must accept the invitation. Amen. And God is always inviting us to Himself. None of us will ever have the excuse or the pleasure of saying, I was never invited. You know, sometimes there are some events and functions. Somebody getting married, and especially in the church, when certain people are getting married, everybody loves to be a part of that wedding ceremony. And then sometimes prior to the wedding, they hear, get the invitation. invitation. Here, so so get invitation. You don't get no invitation. Master, we're not invited. Bones are not program. And when that statement is true, none of us will ever be blessed with the opportunity of saying that where God is concerned. Because God, at every time, every point in our life, is always giving us an invitation to come unto Him. Even when we don't want, when we don't feel like, because of whatever reason, He still is going to give us that invitation. He's always inviting us to Himself. There was a story in Scripture where we're told that there was going to be a banquet and an invitation was given. And everyone who got the invitation had reasons when the time came as to why they could not come. Everybody have reasons. Everybody have excuse. Everybody have excuse why they can't come. And when you examine today the church, we are still in the same situation. That every time, sometimes, an opportunity is given for us to be drawn close to God, we reject the offer. Everybody, people will come up with that kind of offer. If you say to them, say, listen to me, month end, the last Wednesday this month, we're going to ask you to lead prayer meeting. 1 month's notice, you know? And persons already tell us that we can't do it. Our persons will tell you categorically, we not do it. And yet there are other opportunities when offered, we grasp them with both hands. Draw near to God, and He will draw near to you. If we should just challenge ourselves to make the effort to draw near to God, we will see that God will not disappoint us in drawing close to us. No one that has ever drawn close to God has God ever withdrawn Himself from. A few instances in Scripture where we are told that many opportunities were given, and because persons would have thrown those opportunities and they would have thrown back in God's face, it got to the time when they really needed God, and God had turned His back on it. But all times for those of us who sincerely seek after God, God always reaches out to us. The question then must be asked, for those of us who feel distant from God, could it be that we are not engaged in the process of drawing close to God? And how much does it take for us to draw close to God? You know, there are some areas in life that when you want to be initiated, the process of initiation is so intricate and so expensive. And you find people who will do everything in their power to meet those requirements. People who will do everything in their power to meet those requirements. You know, when people want them, people always ask people who get the visa. Because all of that is just our way of preparing ourselves that when we go to apply for ourselves, we stand a great chance of being accepted as opposed to being denied. So someone will go around, no. We put in our account, so that the finance is simple. Pray and believe. And yet, we would rather pay thousands of dollars for something that is free. Can you imagine we are sick? And the doctor says we need a surgery. And I'm not by any means saying that there are instances where surgery is necessary. But some of us are quicker to come up with the money for the surgery than to trust God for our healing. We are quicker to spend money for things that God would have given to us otherwise, free of cost. To believe. But for some of us, it's difficult. The first part of this verse can be seen as one of the most comforting and encouraging promises throughout the scripture. It is a two-part statement, a profound truth that if we draw near to God, which is a command for us, that He will also draw near to us, which is His promise to us. And if we know anything about God, one of the things that God is credited for is to be a God of His word. It's not like our leaders today. And especially now that we are in, these leaders recognize that as citizens we have needs. And what needs, so they come to us and they promise us that, listen, if you put us in power, if you vote for us, we're going to give you this, we're going to give you this. And there are some little things that they will do to soften you up and sweeten you up. This morning while I was coming to church, I see a decent group of young people. Everybody decked out in their colors. And there must be some kind of meeting somewhere that they are gearing up to go. And I see people who are posting. I said, see my shirt here. I see $5,000 a year. Because some of us, we are so easily persuaded when it comes to that which is temporary, when it comes to that which is materialistic. And I wonder if we are observant that some of these promises that are being made, that even years after these four of these persons are elected, they are yet to deliver on their promise. We can cite millions of promises over the years that our leaders have made to us and are yet to deliver. And we cannot come up with as much as one promise that God has made to His people wherein He has not delivered. And we fail to give God credit for the fact that He's a God to His word. And if God said, I am going to do it, then He's going to do it. So I invite you, just in case you know, I am inviting you, draw near to me, and I am promising you that I will draw near to you. He could have left us to complete the entire process, to say, listen to me, this is what is required of you. It's a 10-step process, and until you can complete all 10 steps, you will not get close to me. For some of us are aware and can identify with some of these things that sometimes there are some things that we are applying for, and if we are as much as, I just one of the requirements, you'll be denied. And God, being the fear God that He is, the just God that He is, He says to me, if you will take one step, me take 2 steps. All I want to see is an effort, is something that says to me, I want to be with you, I want to be close to you, and as long as I see that effort, I will ensure that I draw close to you. If it was left to us alone, if we draw close to God, none of us will be in a relationship with God. Because sometimes we make 2 steps forward and some might lead with 5 steps backward. Every time you think that you are within grasp of a thing, something comes in between and denies you of an opportunity. And sometimes we get to that point where we feel as if God back against us. We see seemingly everybody else around us are being blessed and they are seemingly prospering. Things are happening for them, and yet we are trying with all our endeavors and it seems as if nothing is happening. God says, if you draw close to me, I will draw close to you. We must then question what causes us to feel disconnected. Are we doing that lack of interest, that lack of enthusiasm? And if ever there's a time that we lack interest and enthusiasm, is now. My gosh, when we come into the house of God, if persons were to look at us, at our disposition, our mannerisms, our conduct, what is seen, emanated, or reflecting, was to be the means whereby persons were drawn to Christ. They would have been pushed farther away from Christ. You ever see the people in the world, when they do them thing, it's very alluring and they are enthusiastic about it. And if a session come up and they are not selfish like some of us, they want to enjoy with their friends and they are willing to put their monies together if somebody is not in a position to afford it. They must say, when you talk about man, I think one of your friends, we can't let you out. And if you have to come together and do some fundraiser, but everybody, we're going out on the door and we are going to enjoy ourselves. And if our people say, well, don't worry yourself. And if you don't have money to spend, don't worry yourself. People learn unless they're doing is wrong. They are still enthusiastic about it. And we are doing the wrong, my God, we make it seem like it's a burden. We are sure that we are enjoying, that we are having joy in the Lord. And James is saying that we are being called out of our lack of interest and our lack of enthusiasm and our worldly entanglement. You know, when I was in camp and I give acknowledgement to the fact that a number of the campers were Christians, the young campers. But we had an invited guest one of the nights. And our guest was accompanied by some members of his church. And I sat in camp and I really felt bad. Because even persons who should know better in how we deport ourselves, you have to always attend these, don't put on your hat. Don't take off that. You can't wear that. We have to always micromanage people. Here is the Spirit of God that when you are doing certain things, He comes in you, He manifests Himself, He speaks to you to say to you, that's not appropriate, that's not appropriate. The smallest of child that came was elegantly clad, was modestly dressed, hat was being worn. And I understand that we are in a camp setting and we want, but sometimes you can still be casual and still be decent. Being decent doesn't necessarily mean that we have to be formal. But the worldly entanglement is such that nowadays when you come in the body of Christ, there was a time in Scripture. And as we are having discussion in Bible study, and Sister Green Johnson was pointing out to the fact that when we were growing up as young Christians, the standard was different. And I am saying, we today who are the adults, we are the ones that was before them, because we are the ones that are dropping the ball. Sometimes I see some of our adults conducting themselves a certain way that I'm saying, my God. You know, so sometimes the pastor may have to sit down and think and try to convince himself, say, me no young again, me old, and that I am now a part of the adults of society. Because sometimes in your head space, you still have things that you know. Some of us don't realize that we're past the age for certain kind of behavior. Long time. Certain behavior of the children.
Come on. Amen.
And I sat and I looked. And I said, my God, I remember when I was, you're in a camp, and there are those times when everybody else is playing. I'm sit down, I'm just an observer. And my thoughts are just out. And I said, God, you remember that there was a time when I was those little children running up and down. And the children are saying, Pastor, please, they can 10 more minutes, can you go and come out of the pool? Yeah. And I'm saying to them, listen, there's something far more important than having fun in the pool that we came for. The pool is just for a moment of enjoyment and recreation and relaxation. The more essential part are the sessions. And these persons, they indulge themselves so much in having fun. And when it comes to the most crucial part of the service, everybody has struggled. Everybody has rolled up them and they can't still awake. And I said, there was a time that I was there, but those who were adults then, who were supervising us, they had spinal tenacity. They have no joining and people have backbone. Yes. How will you vex? How would it say, Pastor Phipps? How will you vex with a bee? Them still stand firm on the word of God. It takes too little to convince some of us. And we treat our children as it were, they are adults and they have a lot of option and they have too much opinion. Paul or James here is calling us out of our lackadaisical kind of attitude when it comes to Christ. And so we are too engrossed, we are too entangled in worldly affairs. When the scripture says of Christians that by their fruits they shall be known. Pastor Pastor, if you want to know an orange tree, what do? You go there to smell the tree? You go there to touch the tree? It's very near you look on it and you see the fruit. That is what you see. What some of us don't understand is that what we portray, what we put out, what we set in front of people to see, that's what they see. That's the fruit that we are bearing. That's the example that we are setting. There was a time when you could look at an individual and tell them a Christian. By just how them dress, how them carry themselves, because there was a time when the processing of the ear wasn't even something that was accepted in the church. Well, some churches accepted the hiring of ear because chemicals were forbidden. The only form of processing back then was pressing when you get the hot iron and straight in your ear. Now we come up with all kind of excuse. And notice, sometimes we complain for just a little leverage. There's something about human being. We don't know nothing about boundary. As long as there are boundaries, we will always be pushing. So the children were saying to me yesterday, Pastor, we can't just sit down at the pool and wait before the time. They said, if we give an opportunity to wait for, it's just a moment, a matter of time before somebody is tempted to drop off in there. You said you are waiting for, but me know that deep in your mind, you just want to get closer to the pool. The I say that to say it's the same way when it comes to the things of the world. We gradually start to partake in them, and before we know it, we are neck deep in the things of this world. So much so that we can no longer be readily identify our behavior, our speech, our conduct, our dress code. So many things about us tells a story that is unbefitting to who we are. And so James is calling us out of our spiritual empathy. He's saying that you who are caught up in quarreling and in fighting, you who are driven by your passion, you who have unforgiveness, or who have forgotten your first love, he's saying that we have to come back to God. Some of us, we are living for ourselves. What drives us is our own personal passion. And God is not in the mix any at all. There are times when I feel like I would want to do something else. But you know, I realize I never created myself. How would it feel that I'm an inventor and I invent a product to serve me in a particular way? But after I have developed the product, somewhere along the line, the product decides that it no longer wants to serve me in that capacity. And it wants to do when it feels like it. Can you imagine what some of us as human beings with the sin nature would do? We mash you up. Because you can't serve me, you know, but do nothing else. I've never stopped to consider how God feels about the fact that He created us in His own image and likeness for His own pleasure, to give worship unto Him and to enhance His kingdom. And yet, because He has given us the free will to choose, we choose to do otherwise. It's an invitation to an intimacy with the greatest of our times. We're not talking now about the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. We're not talking about the King of Pop, Michael Jackson. We're not talking about the King of NBA, Michael Jordan. We're not talking about the Queen of Tennis, Serena Williams. Now are we talking about the King of Boxing, Muhammad Ali? But we are talking about the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the conquering Lion of the tribe of Judah, the greatest of all time, the Creator Himself of the universe. Some of us will be more excited and enthusiastic to meet a human celebrity than to meet with God. If I should ask you, who is your favorite celebrity? And what would you do should you get an opportunity to meet that celebrity? Some of us would go to no ends. Those questions are asked as what we call it, a social experiment on social media. And even married people. You know, you have people whose relationship was destroyed because they got one concert and their favorite celebrity artist, and they get a VIP ticket and upfront, and then they are gone with them spouse right there. So next thing they get dropped on stage, and if it gets to them married in a relationship, and the relationship done right there. So and persons will tell you, I will do anything for contact with my favorite celebrity, even if we lose my marriage. Some of us, we are no different. If we hear that our favorite celebrity is going to be at the National Arena or the National Stadium, and it is on a Sunday, a convention day, big $1,000, some people are missed church, could not be the celebrity. He can testify in time past when his favorite sports was being played. All on a Sunday, he was preaching and God has come in the park. Because the favorite team is going to play. And especially when the West Indies back then used to play. Savannah Park full. We will stampede each other. We will trample each other just to meet our favorite celebrity. And when it comes to drawing close to God, we behave like we're dead. We're not a fan of who God is. We're not interested in who God is. We don't feel the way we feel about my celebrity, oh God. This is an invitation to perform. This isn't an invitation to perform a ritual or to simply say a prayer. It's an invitation to a posture of the heart. When we come to church, the series that I'm doing, how should one respond to the word, has to do with the posture of the heart. Sometimes you get the feeling that persons just, today is Sunday, and Sunday is a church day, so we're supposed to go to church. We have to go to church, but we're Sunday full of so many things that even while we sit under the word of God, all we are thinking about is, boy, alright, when church over, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and boy, if we don't start to do that by a certain time, boy, we are going to late and this, and we are just planning out the day. Our hearts are in a position and posture to say, we are coming into the presence of God. We are going to meet with God, and whatever God is doing in the midst of the believer at that time, I am so open that even if you take the whole day, it's not an issue, because I have prepared my mind to spend time in the presence of God. And that was aware. We are falling off, beloved. All of us, we are falling off. For those of us who have been saved for any long time, we know what it is to prepare our heart, especially when Sunday come around. From Saturday, start tune up your spirit, because if you've been busy every other day, you are ensuring, especially, and not just Sunday, but as soon as you know you are going to go into the house of God, everything else is dropped, and your mind and heart and focus is on the word of God, the house of God, and whatever it is going to be done here. Friend of us stated afterwards. So it's not a ritualistic invitation, but it is a one that calls out to the very posture of our heart. To draw near to God means to actively seek His presence. There's an illustration I came across that I'm told that some native Africans use as a means to find water. In high drought, we are told that the baboons, they love salt. And so what they would do is set up a trap, what is called a salt trap, and put a big clump of salt in there. And the baboons, when they find it, they are so anxious to take out the salt that they push them hand in there. And you know, when they ball up with this and hold something and try to take out the whole thing, it never come on. And so, what they do is they catch the baboon because he never let them salt. And what they do now is release him and watch him. After they captivate him, they lock him up and feed him all of the salt. All of the salt, as much as he can eat, because he love it. He just lick it and go on. And then when he eat enough now, the next thing he go on, his water and then release him. And train him. Because in the other words, anyway the little tributaries them they know. And he will go after these things. This is the kind of intensity with which the child of God should draw near to God. It shouldn't be a casual just coming to church. Because it is obvious to us that this isn't really working. It's one of the reasons why many persons complain that church and service is boring, because the truth is we just come. We come as it were a concert and we expect the artists that are going to perform to entertain us. And if the artists never entertain us, then we say the concert flop. But how many of us know that we are the artists that are called? And we entertain the presence of God with our worship, with our lifestyle, with our conduct, with everything that is within us. When we seek after God, He says He will draw close to us. Not a casual implementation, but it's an intense one. It means that we have to turn our attention and our effort towards Him. It means living with the awareness that He is not a distant deity, but God is within reach. God is waiting with expectancy for each and every one of us to make the effort to come close to Him. And as a father who longs for relationship with his children, the promise that follows is breathtaking. He says, if you draw close to me, I will draw close to you. Secondly, he says that we have to cleanse our hands. You know, so some people don't take nice to certain statements. Because how many of us want to identify with the idea that we are nasty? No, it's easier for us to say somebody is nasty. It's easier for us to say somebody else is ugly, somebody else is dirty. But when it comes to us, I'm perfect. There's nothing wrong with me. If you don't match up to what I am, then you are falling short. But Paul and James made no, he didn't hold back on his word. Never made any bones about it. When he said, you must cleanse your hands, you sinners. If you call some Christians sinner nowadays, they take offense, you know. I'm vexed with you. But the Bible says this is the mirror of the world, and when you look in it, it said by virtue of our actions, we are sinners. Now James moves from the beautiful invitation to a more practical application. He says, cleanse your hands, you sinners. This is where the sermon might become a bit uncomfortable for some of us, because James is now addressing the issue of sin in our life. He's calling a spade. If we're dead, simply the word of God is going to let us know that we are dead. If we lukewarm, it is going to let us know that we are lukewarm. If we are hypocrites, the word of God is going to let us know that we are hypocrites. And Jesus was a good example. Jesus never minced word to tell people about their current condition. And some of them never take it so that they say, ye are white wall sepulchres. Outside is well garnished, well painted, white and looking splendorous. But they say all that is inside is dead men bones. That word is true for many of us. Because externally we look good. We deprove ourselves in a manner that would cause people to say, that person is a true child of God. But you know what? We can fool people, but we can't fool God. I might be able to know and study all the nuances of God sees that all I do is that I might be seen of others. I don't say you are doing it for the wrong reasons. You are a hypocrite. So he's now addressing the whole matter of sin. He's calling a spade. Now in the Jewish tradition, the cleansing of your hands was a very powerful metaphor. It spoke to the ritual of purity, of the washing away of defilement before approaching God's temple. How many of us today, before we enter the house of God, we ensure that we search ourselves, we search our heart, we pray, we say, Father God, wash me, cleanse me, the sins that are in me, Lord, purify me and make me a vessel worthy of bearing your name. Somehow we will be a face. We know we just cuss out the neighbor, we know we just malice with family member, we know we just misbehave, we know all the things that we are doing, and we just try and be a face coming in the house of God, same way. No washing of the hand, and we come at church and we expect church to be nice, we expect church to be hot, we expect church to be anointed, and when the word of God preached, we say this true word, but James is saying, wash our hands, ye sinners. There's no two way about it. Bishop will paraphrase that no less mess. You can't pour new wine into dirty vessel. We cannot expect to be anointed and to be blessed of God, but as a people of God, we are not clean. As tributaries of God, we are very sure that our vessels are clean. Because if God is going to use you as a channel to bless anybody else, if you don't clean, you're going to corrupt the ingredient. If you're going to run water to a dirty pipe, that water is going to be tainted. It's not going to be safe for drinking or for any other use but the water garden. But if you want that water to be consumable, to be potable, then you need to flush the system and ensure that the water that is pure that is going through, you now become a clean vessel to channel that service to others. He said we must cleanse our hands. So it was a very powerful metaphor. It speaks to the washing away of defilement when we come into God's temple. But James is not speaking of something, or he's speaking of something far deeper than just a physical washing. Because if you draw close to most of it, smell nice. Sometimes I say, what's the name of that fragrance? Smell good man with beard. And put on a nice fragrance and put clothes clean. But Jesus is looking far beyond our external appearance. James is speaking more deeper than a physical act. He is addressing the issue of our behavior. It is sad to say that, but somehow we don't have no behavior. And it comes out sometimes in a way that is really disgusting. Sometimes some simple instructions that are given that you would expect anybody who genuinely see it would just follow through with the instruction. We create a big problem out of what is something simple. It's like if you were never taught at home that when you get your meal, you must sit around the table. Then you go somewhere in a public setting where it demands of you, the provision is made for you to sit around the table. But you draw one chair and go one side with the plate in your lap. And when you are told to come and join the table, we can't bother, that can take too long. It comes up, our mannerisms, our behavior. Cleansing your hands means to repent of the sinful action. It means to stop doing the things have people when we talk to them, they will tell them categorically whatever they are doing, them not stopping. That is not drawing close to God. And that is why we experience the kind of disconnect that we experience because we are distant from God. James is addressing sinners. This is not just a label for just a select few. But the Bible tells us in Romans chapter 3 and verse 23, all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. And we are all in a sense sinners. So this command is for every one of us today. It is a call to examine our life and to see where our hands are defiled. To clean from unjust gain. Because sometimes we do anything for money. You know, the scripture says that as believers, as people who are a part of the body of Christ, we should not put out our money to usury. You know what I mean? If you're lending somebody money as another believer, you know, you're asking a profit money. You're not a banker, you're not doing business. It's called putting it out to usury. And if you take profit, if you ask a profit money, it's unjust gain. Some people say, oh, the money go that hand in the bank right there and I grow 1 whatever profit. You know what? Are our hands clean from unjust gain? Because somebody now know about thief the thing, you know. But we know say the person will give you a thief, they will thief it. We have people who know that within their family they are practicing criminals that are supported in the family lifestyle. And while we are not the ones who are going out there to rob people, some of we are taking the sweets. We are taking the money, we know people are scared, but we still are taking money. We are driving at the Christian. We are taking the cell phone and we don't consider ourselves money. Work hard and buy the phone. And you go and don't jump them up and take it because you want the latest iPhone. The latest class, the latest this. We take unjust gains. And if we take unjust gains, our hands are not clean. Sometimes in the workplace, what is an underhanded thing one? My man say my help me because when me go me and do some business at the machine shop and then link me with a whopping 30,000. I buy the item for 20,000 and it needs some modification and then I charge me 30,000 for modify. Yes, oh you charge me more than what the item costs. Them say it's modification, that is what it costs. And then they say the man draw me one away and I say, yo, you can't help me out, you know. You can't just do this and do that and do that. And you give me a $7,000. He said, this won't happen to you. Because when you give me $7,000 and you buy it, you can't come back to you. And you can't go to the box. So I just pick for myself and go somewhere else to ask. And for the price too high, you find somebody and you negotiate, and if they are willing to do it, then you go ahead. But you care about that table. I broke the box, come see with me. I take the money and I said, "Purple, let the camera see you." I remember going to an establishment and we were doing some business. And my sister, she loved tea. So she was saying, "Do you guys accept it? I would like to treat you guys to lunch." And one of them kept me and said, "No, it's against our policy, we cannot accept." The next one said, "No, we can't take no camera in there." You know, said no camera never in there. Take it. Yeah. Camera, no camera, the other one said, "No, it is against company policy." Him said, "No, what about camera in there, so we can't take it." Even if you go around one corner, you know. Are your hands clean from unjust gains? Are your hands free from the harm we have done to others through the words of our actions? Have we repented of the things we have done that separates us from God? Because you know, so the truth is, the area wherein most of us are struggling It's not that we are ignorant of it, you know. We know. The drunken man knows the alcohol is not his friend. But he's still a drinking. He's still a going there. He's still a hang out with those who use it. It's not that we are ignorant of it. It's just a failure to desist from the purpose. Have we repented of the things we have done that separates us from God? This is not a call to earn our way back to God, because, as I said before, we can't work with way back to God, brethren. Me and you could have come and we fast from now till the morning. And that can't get us back in the presence of God. We read the word from now till the morning. We live like daily. But if there is unrepented sin in our life, we will not draw close to God. And some of us have too many unrepented sin in our life, and we expect to be blessed of God. But it is a call to a sincere and an heartfelt repentance. You know, when somebody says they're sorry, it's not like somebody don't walk up and say, Sister Lee, if me didn't hurt you, or if me didn't offend you, they're sorry. That's not genuine. When it is genuine, whether you believe saying you hurt the person, I said, Sister Lee, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. Even if you feel sad, whether you never meant it or you never did anything, because of the genuinity of your heart, you have said, so I don't know. I am willing to say I am sorry. I don't want this sin in. But he says, it is a call to a sincere, heartfelt repentance that says, Lord, I don't want this sin in my life anymore. I lay it at your feet, and by your grace, help me to turn away from it. Comes right back to how should we respond to the word of God. Heart of humility. That if the mirror show we say your nose big, we can't argue with the mirror and say, I lie the mirror and tell. Turn the next side, and you will see, say, I just the angle where you are show. No. Whatever angle you turn, the mirror will show you, say your nose big. Thirdly, moving on quickly. We are now looking at the transformation. So he says we should what? Purify our heart, you double-minded. Finally, James goes even deeper from our actions to know our motivation. What is it that motivates us? Because there are people, you know, what we fail to understand. You know, I probably have said this before in time. You know, you can do the right thing. But if your motive in doing the right thing is wrong, you still miss the mark. So I can preach the word, and the word is true, the word is accurate. But if I preach because I want people to see me and preach, we miss the mark. That's why Paul was saying to the believers when they were complaining to him that there are people up here who are preaching the gospel and collect money, and there are people up here who are accusing of this. And Paul said, never mind, no, watch that. There's something that is more essential that I want for you to focus on. When the time is right, God will deal with them. But the important thing at this point in time is that the gospel is being preached. So, we are ready to understand that our actions can be right, but our motives are wrong. So the man sitting there who is in need, and he said, no, I'm to you. And she said, well, I'm struggling because I'm more of you take care of the people them. And I said, well, I said, nice girl like you, now one man by your side. And he genuinely, no, not genuinely, he started help. And he come around, the kids them have lunch money and he give money. Is that something good? And then everyone said, oh, he's such a gentleman, he's so nice. He's just feeding into. your needs and your vulnerability. He doesn't give you what you want. He doesn't supply your needs. He didn't wait for you to ask. He might have when I reach work tomorrow. You have no fear. Would you like for me to come and pick you up? And when I pick you up, I am busy. You have everything else. If she calls and say, I heard her, I'm dead. But in the back of his mind, one intention is to get the sheep. All what he did, even of itself, would have been good because he was supplying needs. He was meeting needs. He was helper because he genuinely need help. But he was an ulterior motive. He has an ulterior motive. And so what the scripture said, if we do the right thing, but our motives are wrong, we still miss the mark. So, you see, James is really digging deep, because some of us already, what we are putting on externally, it is to give a show, is to give the impression. Some of us will smile, to give the impression that all is well, but deep down inside we are hurting. We are being destroyed immorally, but on the outside we wear a smile because we don't want those around us to know the truth of what is going on. So he says, this kind of purifying of the heart is something that goes deeper into the psyche. It literally means that we must give up our souls to God. When we talk about the double-minded, he's referring to, it's like one man having two souls. It describes a person who has 1 foot in the world and 1 foot in the kingdom of God. So on one hand, we really want to serve God. But on the other hand, there are some things that we enjoy over here, so wow, we can't let it go. A person will tell you why they love church, but they also love party. They love have a good time. A person who wants to serve God, but also wants to serve money. A person who wants to follow Jesus Christ, but also wants to hold on to their own selfish desire. And how many of us remember what Jesus says to the disciples? That in extension or by extension applies to us. If any man, any woman, any human being is going to be a follower of me, any man that is going to be a disciple of me must first, number one. Why is it number one? Because as long as we are going after our own pursuit, we can't follow Jesus. It's one of the reasons why Judas Iscariot fell out by the way. Because Judas was trying to follow Jesus, but his mind, his heart, his entire being was wrapped up around handling the money. Judas, the Bible said, from time to time was helping himself. Jesus was being ministered unto. And the woman break her gift and brought it before God and was pouring it out upon God. And all that Judas saw was that which was being offered to God was a grand waste. Why did you see it as a waste? How could you see something being administered to God as a waste? If you understand who God is, then you should understand that there is nothing too good that you can give to God. There is nothing too good that God is not deserving of. Then only you get to that place where you think that that which is being given to God is a waste. It is when we are trying to follow Jesus and at the same time we are going after money. He said this thing could be sold and the proceeds from it given to the poor. And he knew in his heart of heart that the poor wasn't on his priority list. He was looking over himself. And that is why in the end of the entire thing, he sold out Jesus for money. He couldn't even say, you know what, the one when we have a kiss again. He loved money so much that he said, why, we will show you how we know. Or you have to pay me. It have a cost you. And Judas said, we worship them agree to pay 30 pieces of silver. Sometimes we are not different. Can we sell out Jesus for less? It amazes me, you know. You know that the cosmetic industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And when God says to us as His children that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, I don't know how people can see real beauty in that which is natural. Or we can see real beauty in that which is natural. I see some person sometimes, my God, if you get a piece of cotton with a little alcohol, I make one drop, cannot clean off the layer of makeup whatever wear. And it is so obvious. They put on so much makeup that everybody knows in the skin that if them smile, the makeup crack. And we find beauty in that. We cannot want to follow Jesus, but also want to hold on to our selfish desire. This is hypocrisy that James born against. You show up at some workplace, pastor, and ask your sister so and so. And everybody say, who? Sister so and so. And when you inquire and you realize, more drop more and then you say, but you realize that who brother so and so and sister so and so in the workplace is not a good reflection of the church. So James born against this hypocrisy about those who come to church on a Sunday but live like the world the rest of the week. He's speaking to the inconsistency in our life. This moment we up, the next moment we down. This moment we want to do the thing, the next moment we don't want to do the thing. The double-mindedness. This moment we love you, next moment we hate your guts. You can't really put your trust in such a person. You know, I prefer walk on night to go to a shop. When at night I read the sun, if I am confident that when I get to that shop will not only be open, but I stand a great chance of getting what I want at that shop. You have some shop that open willy-nilly. You go to this moment they lock, next moment they open. You go to your ask for something, they don't have it. All kind of something. I am in construction and there are some hardwares that are a little on the expensive side. But we use them same way. You know why? It's less waste of my time. I stand a better chance of getting everything in one place, so it's less driving up and down for me. I know that you open from this time to this time. You know, say you close 5 o'clock. I mean, in our spot, when we need something, I mean, I race against them if we catch you 5 o'clock, I mean, 4:30. I want to read you back up and down. If I had known, pull out somewhere else. That level of inconsistency. Remember, I said, God, no, you know, says that I understand with that level of inconsistency that even we can't trust ourselves. Because this moment we are up and bright and we say, yes man, we are going to do it. But then something happens and our mind changes. He's saying that we have to get rid of the inconsistency. Purify your heart. This is a command. It is an internal work. This is not something that I can do for you or you can do for me. It is for us to draw close to God, and by the help of His Spirit, we are going to be purified with Him. Amen. So it's like an external purifying of the heart. This deals with our internal desires, our thoughts, our motivation that nobody else can know. Pastor, you sit up on the seat and you look at me and you can't tell who I'm going in your mind. Those thoughts are for you and for God who searches the heart. And so only you and God collaborating can really deal with those issues. I can only preach and teach and admonish. But that inner work comes down to you and God. Amen. So that's why no matter how pastors preaching, if we don't determine within ourselves, it's not going to work. We cannot purify our own hearts. If that was the case, we would need God. But that is our word for the Holy Spirit. But we can present our hearts to God. We can pray the prayer of David in Psalm 51, verse 10. What it says? It says, create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit. We can pray, but it is the Spirit of God with our yielding members that will cause our hearts to be purified. It says to be single-minded is to be devoted fully and completely to God. It cannot be half-hearted. We have to deny 100%. I'm wrapping up, I'm coming down close. It means that our allegiance, it cannot be divided. Cannot be divided. When it comes to God and God, we have to be of the understanding that God is always first above work. When it comes to work, and when it comes to God and family, we must come to that conclusion where we understand God is above family. Everything else that is in our life becomes secondary, but God is primary. Because without God, none of the other things will exist or be possible. We have to give preeminence to God. By no means am I saying we should neglect our other responsibilities as human beings. But God must be first. God must be at the top. So if at any time we are faced with the challenge of choosing, it should be a no-brainer. Today I would love to be at the funeral service of the children of our dearly departed Sister Rose Campbell. Their dad is being laid to rest today. I would very much like to be in support. But the truth is, God comes first. If the time was structured in a way where we could do God's business and then go give our support, then by all means. But when we are called to serve God and to live for God, we must understand Jesus, when he was giving the excuse that Father, he said, give me the opportunity. No, I follow you. But my father then I know I'm not buried himself. It's a tough thing. It comes across as inconsiderate, as heartless. But Jesus wants us to understand that the person is dead. You can't do that anymore. But that which is still alive requires urgency. So he says that we must be diligent, and our diligence is not to be divided. It means that our love for him is not conditional. And some of us, all of us, we love conditional. We love persons when they do certain things. And if they stop do certain things, we love for them start to wane. We love conditionally. He says, this kind of dedication that we are called for requires diligence. We must have an allegiance that is undivided. It means that our love must be unconditional. It means that we are willing to let go of the things of this world that holds us back from a deeper relationship with God. Some of us, we cherish the things of the world more than we cherish our relationship with God. It matters more to us how others see us, what they think of us, how we look. People will sit in church under the ministry of the Word of God and not respond to the Holy Ghost because they don't want to be seen in a certain light. A message about sin is preached and the wretchedness of man is exposed, and we don't want to be considered wretched. So even when the world was tugging at our heart, we would rather sit down. James in conclusion says that this particular verse serves as a roadmap to a vibrant and living relationship with God. It begins with the invitation that we should draw close to God, draw near to God, knowing with certainty that He will draw near to us. It requires of the action of cleansing our hands, repenting of our sinful behaviors, and turning away from them. And it also leads us to the transforming and purifying of our heart, asking God to make us single-minded in our devotion to Him. So this morning, where are we? Are we feeling distant from God? Are we caught up in the cares and the fleeting pleasures of this life? Do we feel like you are walking with a divided heart? The Word of God today encourages all of us that we should take this verse to heart. Take a step towards God. He is waiting. He is ready. And as you take that step, bring to Him your unclean hands, your double-minded heart. For He is the one who will cleanse you. He is the one who will purify you. Draw nigh to God, and He will draw nigh to you. Cleanse your hands.